What's going on? Man, it is a beautiful day here in the Fort Worth area. I don't know where you at, but man, it feels good out here. But as you could tell from the title of this video here, I want to tell y'all a story. All right, it's a story about when a gangbanger up in Illinois saved my life. All right, now a lot of you guys may know that I was raised in the Rockford area. I was born in Aurora, Illinois, but I was really raised and grew up in Rockford, Illinois, and I lived with my mom, my stepdad. Every other weekend I went and seen my biological dad, and we had a good thing going, honestly. I felt love from so many different sides, and I was able to learn so many different things by being in these few different households. But one of the things that took place, and I'll disclaim this by saying there's no such thing as a perfect parent, but I had some good ones, But again, no such thing as a perfect parent, and I come out of a place of grace and forgiveness. But my stepdad would always say this thing that I knew to him didn't matter a whole lot, but to me it meant the world, right? And he would always say, "Mike, don't be a wimp." Like, Ice, don't be a wimp, don't be a wimp, And looking back on it, you can laugh, you can giggle, but at that moment, growing up, that was hard for me to understand, And again, there's all sorts of forgiveness, whether he wants it or not, because it wasn't for him, the forgiveness was for me. But that phrase like haunted me, And I've talked about it before in regards to the X-Files theme song. Like, I used to hate the theme song. It would start coming on, that doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, that mess. No, I'm good. I'm good on that, right? And so I'd take off to the back room. And, it would be kind of funny, but he would say that, right? And I remember, sophomore year, that sophomore year of high school for me was huge. It was pivotal years, and that summer between freshman and sophomore year, something had happened, right? Whether the phrase came out, "Mike, man, don't be a wimp," or what it was. I know football, I had a rough little stint, a very quick stint in there, and didn't want to play. Like, I'm not going to play for this dude, and I know he didn't like that a whole lot as a father and as my dad, and I get it, but it did something to me to know that I feel like I let him down, right? And so in order to prove to him, and even more so to prove to myself, I throw that in there because part of me started to believe that I was that wimp that he was talking about, right? Or saying not to be. And so in order to prove something to him, but also to myself, I kind of got wrapped up with the wrong people. And that was intentionally, right? People that I would have never hung out with, people I've never done anything with. But in order to prove this thing, I'm like, man, there's these young dudes, because there's young dudes all over the place, who are in these gangs, right? And they're friends of mine, associates of mine, right? But they seem so bold. And so I figure, okay, if I start hanging out with some of them, do some of the things that they're doing, maybe for one, they'll accept me. Because I really didn't feel like I belonged to a place. I felt like a lot of people liked me, but I didn't really belong, right? And then B, I wouldn't be a wimp then, right? And so I began to do certain things with these individuals, things that I would never do, things that I don't deem to be right. And that's where, first and foremost, the real transition in my mind started to take place, because it wasn't necessarily that I was fearful of the things that they were doing, but they just didn't fit within the scope of my moral compass, right? My emotional standard. I just didn't want to do those things. But if those were the things that caused me to no longer be a wimp in my eyes or in my stepdad's eyes, that's what I was going to do. And so I began to do some of those things, right? And it didn't feel good to do them. It didn't feel good to hurt or impact negatively the people that I hurt and impacted. But it began to kind of prove to me, first one was like, okay, I'm not a wimp. Look at the things that I'm doing. But it wasn't until it was time to fit in, it was time for me to really belong to this thing, that I got to sit down with the OG. Right now, there's not a whole lot of OGs up in Rockford, Illinois. but there are a couple. These are original gangsters. These are individuals who pull a lot of rank because they've probably been in that gang for a long time. And these are the people that you kind of see in the movies and such, right? They don't do a whole lot of dirt right now, but they're responsible for a whole lot of weight getting pushed. And so I ended up, being able to come to this guy. I'm thinking, okay, this is the moment that I'm either going to get jumped into this thing, right, and truly belong. It's almost like a fraternity to me, right? Like these are the guys that will have my back from this day forward. I've always been kind of introduced and invited into these kind of scenes, if you know what I'm saying. But here I am, sitting with this OG. And there's like 5 or 6 young dudes with him. And so I know what this is. I know what this looks like, and my heart is racing. And I know kind of in my heart of hearts, like, this ain't right, Mike. But it felt so good to belong. And even more so, it felt so good to prove to myself and to my dad, like, yo, I'm not a wimp. Look at the things that I'm doing, right? And he started out by saying, I'll never forget this moment, right? This conversation we had. He says, you got heart. You got heart. And I remember thinking, like, yes, finally, Then he said, but, and I said, hold on, but what? Like, what, why is there a but in this? Like, no, really, no. And he said, but I know your family. I know your dad, I know your grandmother, I know your aunts and your uncles. They've been in Rockford for a long time, and I realized, crap, this dude knows my family, right? And he goes on to say, you go to a home every evening that has 2 parents. You go to a home that has a mom and a dad in it. You probably eat dinner every night with them. You go to an amazing school, private school, right? And I said, yes, sir. That's right. So you go to a private school, so you're getting a good education. He said, look at these dudes around you, and I began to kind of, look at them. And at this point, their heads are all kind of down. Like, that same little bravado they walked in with, it was gone. They're all kind of, and he's like, the reason that they're here is because this is all that they have. That's all they got. And he said, you aren't built for this. You aren't built for this. And my heart like sunk into my stomach, right? And I thought to myself, man, if you say that I'm a wimp on any level, I'm a implode, right? But he went on to say, you aren't built for this because you're meant to come back and get some of these guys out of this. To get guys like this to another level. And I remember looking at him and thinking, really? Like, that's what you have for me? Like, I didn't understand, because I felt like, yes, I go to a private school, and even though the world calls me a minority, I'm even more so that within the walls of this school, right? And I feel like I'm beginning to lose myself because I really didn't know who I was to begin with. So that little bit of who I thought I was started slipping out of my grasps. I didn't know where I should be going because at this point, I just feel like, I'm this wimp who gets really good grades because I was really good at school, right? And now I had done things that hurt people, trying to be this person to fit into this group, and not even this group wanted me. And it hasn't been until I've become an adult, and realized that year specifically, right, that sophomore year, where I was kind of going through all these mindset shifts, if I would have gotten into said gang, right, and if this individual would have accepted me as that, my heart wouldn't have been in a place, I'm for certain, that I would have accepted a note from a young lady named Crystal Saunders, right, who is now Crystal Wilson, but I probably would have ended up in jail or dead because of the things and the people that I had rubbed shoulders with in that little bit of time, in that small season, right? And what I realized is that so many people, especially now that I'm a small business PWE, right, partner without the equity, to a few different business owners, right? I almost said so many, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, to a few different business owners, right, who are my clients, and I'm realizing they walk in this fear, right? They have this fear that paralyzes them. And either they're at point A that says, I can't get this business started because of whatever insecurity, because of whatever fear, or they're at a place in their business where it's time to level up. It's time to make that next step. And they're so comfortable where they are, right? Even though their business begs for them to level up. Even though they're telling new customers no because they can't take on anything else. They have this fear that keeps them in that place. What I would love to encourage you to do is to walk with your fears today. Walk with your fears. Call them out for what they are, and then begin to walk with them. Okay? And the reason I say that is because that's exactly what I had to do to get to the place that I'm at today. I had to call out my fear because it wasn't that I was a wimp. It wasn't even really that I was fearful. It was that I had a pretty decent moral compass. And there were things and decisions that I knew that if I made could lead me astray. It could lead me down a road of getting hurt physically, hurting someone else physically. And you see, although in a backwards way I walked in my fear, I walked with my fear, and the thing that I realized was that I had nothing to be fearful of. I had nothing to be fearful of. Because I did the things that the bad people were doing, right? Although I would beg to say there are a lot of those individuals up there who were giving back to their neighborhoods, back to their communities. Different conversation for a different day. But I did what they were doing. So no one could say that I wasn't bold in my actions. No one could say that I was a wimp. No one could say that I was scared, because I did those things. Even though I was scared, I walked in my fear, in my scariness, right? But as a business owner now, I'm so thankful for that season, because there are things that come up, like doing a video like this, right? Where everything inside you says, nah, don't do that. People won't know how to take that side of you. But like I said, I'm working on becoming 100% me. 100% authentically me, right? Helping you to begin to formulate who I am in your life and why I'm still in your life, right? Because I can say without a shadow of a doubt that it's my spiritual obligation to be sure that you're walking in your spiritual obligation. And that means even in your business. Because God gave you, I'm not going to call it a passion because people get real weird about passions, right? But if God put this intense interest in you to do a thing, then that's your spiritual obligation to do. All right? So don't try to, like I did, prove to yourself or anyone else that you are a thing, or that you are a person, that you are this or that, right? It's not about proving it to someone else. But understand in your heart what God has already built you to do. Like that OG said, I wasn't built for that, and he was right. I was not built for that life. I wasn't. I mean, just out of that little bit of time, I started getting death threats, one of which my girlfriend / fiance was in the car with me at the time, and they brought her up, and so I couldn't tell if it was a joke or if it was real. But because I'd already gotten real death threats, I had to take everything as if it was a real threat, right? And I wasn't negotiating with anybody, with any terrorist, foreign or domestic at that point, right? So I'm like, yo, I'm gonna handle this. But it's all because of my actions in trying to prove to someone else, or even to myself, a narrative that was never built for me anyways. That was never for me anyway, so why did I try to prove that point, right? So, if you are a business owner, you may have seen that I've posted, I have 25 spots. Now I got about 20, I have 20 spots actually now. From now to the end of the year, I'm doing 30-minute strategy sessions to help you to level up. Again, it's not that I have all the answers, because I don't. I mean, I failed at a couple businesses already. I had a little finance business that, I learned a lot in. The main thing I learned is I didn't want to be in finance. But it kind of left me lost, right? And these experiences and these people that I've come up against and rubbed shoulders with, they've taught me a lot. Failure has taught me a lot. So I'm simply here to be that PWE, that partner without the equity, mainly because that's what I wish I had. I wish I had someone that would come alongside me, have the desire to see me grow as if they owned part of my company. So then I would simply learn from their mistakes. I would grow with them. That's what I'm here for. So again, I have 20 more spots for a 30-minute session. Well, I'll help you level up if your business is at that place. If you're trying to get a business started, sure, let's talk about it. Let's flesh some of those things out, because the quote that I just heard from one of my coaches that I'm sticking with right now is that lack of clarity is the root of all failure. But ultimate clarity is the root of all success. So if I can simply help bring a little more clarity to the thing that you're thinking about, bring a little more clarity to the thing that you are intensely interested in, then that's what I'm trying to make myself available for. I don't know if you've read the book or heard of the book Go Giver. The Go Giver by, is that Michael Bibb? I ain't gonna lie to you, I don't remember the author's name right now, but the Go Giver, right? Being able to always have your hand open, right? Because things flow when things are open, all right? It's not until you shut off the flow. I mean, think of it like water. Water is the absolute best example, because when you have stagnant water, things begin to corrode. There begins to mildew. And don't get me started about people, relationships. When relationships get stagnant, the mosquitoes come, those bloodsuckers. Come on. Come on. Sorry, there's a jet going by. We live next to the naval base over here. It may get loud, but those bloodsuckers, man. So it has to flow like water. Whether it's your finances, make it flow. If it's your business, make it flow. You understand? This is how things were meant to be. You have to let it flow. So I'm here to flow right alongside you. I only got 20 spots left, and once they're done, they're done. This is my way of saying, because yes, business is, I'm gaining some real clarity with my coaches, and things are really beginning to take off. I'm not here to lie to y'all. I'm not here to lie to y'all. Yes, I am trying, and I am not even trying. I'm not going to say trying, because I hate that word trying. I am building an empire. It's a legacy move. It's a legacy move. And not out of greed or out of some sort of selfish ambition. But what you have to understand is that this is an obligation that I have to the world, that God has placed in my heart. And the money or the tools that I need a lot of tools to build the thing. But there's going to come a time when I can't sit and do this right here. I can't sit and have 25 openings, 30-minute openings. And I'm trying to show y'all my authentic self. Yes, I'm goofy, but I hope you understand I love people, and I love to see people win. And I'm trying in the best way that I know how to help you win today. To help you walk in that fear today, to help you level up in your life and in your business today. All right? So if you have questions, DM me. If you want one of those strategy sessions, go in the messenger and just tell Mike, I want one of those strategy sessions. And I'll get you on the calendar, and together we'll level up. We'll level up. You see, the marks of a great leader is the questions that they ask. And believe me, I've been around some great leaders, so I hope that through osmosis, I'm becoming one myself, right? And so all I got is questions for you. I just want to ask you questions. It's through those questions that you'll gain clarity. It's through those questions that you will level up. That you will level up. That you'll stop with the whole, again, like my coach says, planning and executing at the same time. It just doesn't work. You're talking to someone who's done that for a long time, for many years. The planning and execution, the ready, fire, aim, right? That took me where I needed to go to get away from that starting line, right? To get over that starting line, but it's not what's going to take me to the finish line. So if you have questions, let me know. If you're on here and you are military, ex-military, retired military, thank you so much for your service. Speaking of the Jets, thank you so much for your service, man. I have so much respect for you guys. I honor you guys for what you do and for the freedoms that I get to and my kids get to live in today. It's because of you, so thank you so much. But yeah, Brittany, man, I like messaged her like 4.5 years ago or 5 years ago, and she just hit me back on Messenger. It was the funniest thing because I guess Messenger like just sent it to her, right? Like technology is crazy like that. And so all that to say, if you guys have already hit me up and I haven't responded, hit me up again just in case Messenger or Facebook is like, no, we ain't gonna send Mike this one, right? But it's good to see you, Brittany. Uncle Tony, an amazing story about my Uncle Tony is that when I was little, he came in and he go, Mike Dog. And I was like, I was hurt by that. I mean, I started like tears, like, I'm not a dog, like, like it's crazy. That story is just hilarious, right? It's funny. And my Uncle Tony tells that story a lot. All right. But I do miss you, Uncle Tony. That brother could work on a car like it's nobody's business. He taught me a lot of things, taught me how to change a tire. Uncle Tony, I don't know if you remember that time when you asked me to lower my car down while you were under it, and I kind of had this look on my face. I never lowered, like with the jack, lowered the car down. And you say, you know what, let me get from underneath this car first. And he comes out of the car, and sure enough, it was like, boom. So essentially I would have crushed that man if he would have stayed there. And I remember the feeling of that. I mean, you understand, like, I know my insides, y'all. I know my insides. That's the whole reason why I'm having this conversation with you, right? It wasn't fear that I was battling. I had a moral compass that because of all the relationships, because of all the people in my life, all the stories that I had heard, I had built a pretty good moral compass as a kid. I had a pretty good emotional compass as a young person. That's how that OG was able to look at me and say, you're not built for this. Right? My morals and my emotions and my standards will get in the way. But I hope you guys are encouraged by this, because I'm in no way, shape, or form a perfect person, but it's because of all those failures, it's because of those mistakes that I had made, that's made me the person that I am today. And even more so, getting up next to people who aren't afraid to share their failures so that I don't have to. Right? That's why I've built the business that I've built. That's why. I don't want you to have to put thousands upon thousands of dollars into a thing to see it fail. Some people, yeah, you need that in your story in order to understand, you know, where you went. But others, like me, I didn't need to lose all that money. I did not need to lose all that money. If only someone would have taken me up under their wing and said, watch me, man, do what I do. You know? But I'm not complaining, because I wouldn't be here for you if I had that. So, love you guys. I'm gonna get off here because the lighting just went real weird on me, so I don't know if my phone's about to die or what. But again, hop into the DMs, man. Messenger me if you want to have one of those spots, and we can get that session going. All right? I'll talk to y'all soon. Love you.